Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, August 4th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It's been a symbol of friendship, unity, and a meeting place for families. And tonight, border officials are pressing the pause button on the construction at the aptly named Friendship Park. 2 new barriers were set to go up, and that sparked outcry from community groups. KPBS reporter Tanya Thorne tells us more about the decision.
It's the response Friendship Park advocates had hoped to get. A temporary hold on construction of 2 30-foot tall border walls. Customs and Border Protection announced the move in a statement today, saying they have paused all primary and secondary border barrier construction in the area to engage with community stakeholders and to discuss the planned construction. While Friendship Park supporters applaud the decision, John Vanasil with Friends of Friendship Park says the work is just beginning.
So we look forward to an expansive process of consultation. And we were prepared to advance this process of consultation and collaboration through a stakeholders summit, and are hopeful now that U.S. Border Patrol, Customs and Border Protection will participate in that process.
He says stakeholders will be able to share what they would like to see at Friendship Park in a summit planned in September. But Vanasil says news of the pause also brought some concern. Part of the announcement from CBP included an update on the reopening of Friendship Park, an opening that hasn't happened since 2019. CBP said upon completion of construction, they are committed to preserving access to the park and commit to opening it a minimum of 2 days each month.
If that were the terms of its access for the public, that would be a 75% reduction from even the minimal state of openness that ever existed. So we are concerned that what they're envisioning is a further ratcheting down and closure of Friendship Park, which is something we've seen across the last 15 years.
Vanasil says Friendship Park used to be open every weekend, and over time, openings were cut. He hopes the conversations to come can lead to a restoration of what Friendship Park was meant to be.
Family reunions are an important element of Friendship Park, but they're not the only element by any means. There's a binational guard. There are annual events that have been held for decades at this location. People would come to enjoy the view of the ocean and chat with friends on the other side, irrespective of, separation from family members. So the notion that it's a vital public space that is to be celebrated by the peoples of, California and Baja California, that's the vision for Friendship Park that we'll be promoting.
Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
South San Diego County is getting no immediate relief from the millions of gallons of sewage-tainted water flowing across the U.S.-Mexico border. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson has the details.
Mexican officials are still scrambling to fix 2 broken sewage pipelines in Tijuana's Matadero Canyon. The lines ruptured this past weekend, and that's resulted in more than 30 million gallons of polluted flows a day. The International Boundary and Water Commission's Morgan Rogers says there is significant erosion under the broken pipes, and it's not clear when they'll be fixed.
I'd say we're still trying to figure out what the scope of work is and the schedule, but it could be a matter of this weekend or it could be a week later.
Rogers says the sewage treatment plant is taking in most of Tijuana's sewage coming across the border in the Concrete River Channel.
The South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant is taking more flow than it was designed for. It's designed and permitted for 25 million gallons per day. Over the past few days, we've been averaging about 35.
Some of that flow passed through the plant without being completely treated before it's released in the ocean outfall 3 miles offshore. U.S. and Mexican officials continue to work together to get the pipes repaired and the renegade flows under control. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Even though many of the beaches in South Bay are experiencing strong odors and discoloration, people are still choosing to get in the ocean. KPBS reporter Melissa May got reactions from beachgoers.
Signs next to the Imperial Beach Pier warn people to stay out of the water, but we found people swimming in the ocean anyway. Alexander Bergman is visiting from Austria and said he wasn't worried about swimming in contaminated water.
No, not at all. So I think that should not be that much of an issue.
Bergman and fellow traveler Joanna Valavanoglu say they've been surfing in the contaminated water.
We've been here for a couple of days and no illness has caught us yet, so we're looking forward to the next days as well.
Lifeguards are doing their best to patrol up and down the coast of Imperial Beach and educate those that are choosing to swim in the water the risks of swimming in contaminated water. They have also switched over from these blue signs that say beach water may contain sewage and may cause illness to these bright yellow signs that say sewage contaminated water.
I was just kind of surprised and amazed. We came for vacation here and we're not going in the water.
While local surfers are braving the water they've been surfing for years, some tourists have mixed feelings about the warning signs of sewage contamination.
I took a picture to send to our friends back in Colorado to tell them, came all this way and we're just not going in.
The county's Department of Environmental Health and Quality tests bacteria levels at about 45 beaches every day and posts the status online at sdbeachinfo.com. Melissa May, KPBS News.
Federal officials have declared a public health emergency for monkeypox, a skin disease that spreads through close physical contact. KPBS reporter Thomas Fudge says the declaration takes place as San Diego County records its 59th case of the disease.
In a press conference today, the Health and Human Services Director Javier Becerra said the U.S. was taking its response to the next level to stop the spread of monkeypox. That next level was the declaration of a public health emergency. Details were limited, but Becerra and other health officials spoke of better coordination between governments and better sharing of data.
We continue to marshal forward the tools that we need to make sure that we can take on monkeypox and keep it from spreading to the point of becoming endemic.
Becerra said there were at least 6,600 cases of monkeypox in the U.S., up from fewer than 5,000 last week. In San Diego County, 59 cases of monkeypox have been confirmed. All of the cases were men, and the vast majority were men with male sexual partners. Monkeypox is not a sexually transmitted disease, but it does spread through close contact. San Diego County has declared its own local health emergency around monkeypox. On Tuesday, prior to the federal announcement, Supervisor Nathan Fletcher spoke of the need for vaccinations.
In July, we aggressively began advocating with the federal government, both to Secretary Becerra and to other federal leaders, that we needed an increased availability of vaccines. This situation that we face today is fundamentally different than the one that we faced in COVID, and that there already is a vaccine, there is treatment.
Becerra said there are more than 1 million doses of monkeypox vaccine controlled by the U.S. government, and 600,000 doses have been sent to distribution points. The commissioner of the FDA, Robert Califf, said available vaccine doses could increase 5-fold if a skin-deep injection using a much smaller amount proves to be effective.
In recent days, it's become clear to all of us that given the continued spread of the virus, we're at a critical inflection point, dictating the need for additional solutions to address the rise in infection rates. The goal has always been to vaccinate as many people as possible.
So far, about 4,000 doses of monkeypox vaccine have been received in San Diego County. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
San Diego State University is bringing back facial covering requirements ahead of the new school year. In an email sent today, SDSU's president announced that beginning on Monday, August 15th, facial coverings will be required in all instructional settings, whether indoors or outdoors. Faculty who are fully up to date on their vaccinations can remove their masks when teaching, as long as students are masked in the classroom. Facial coverings are also recommended indoors when gathering for events, meetings, and other functions. The California State University system's COVID-19 vaccination requirement also remains in effect for the fall semester. The United States may soon have a new tool to fight the pandemic. Pfizer and Moderna are developing what's known as bivalent boosters, which are vaccines that are comprised of the old formula, along with a new one that focuses on the Omicron BA4 and BA5 subvariants. The FDA says if they approve the shots, they could become available as soon as next month. Officials say roughly 124,000 COVID cases are confirmed each day, but the accuracy is in question because of the use of home tests. Local, state, and international leaders came together today with one common goal: to end human trafficking. A report was recently released by the San Diego Regional Human Trafficking Task Force. It shows that since 2020, the county went from 150 reports of exploited children to 500. The San Diego County District Attorney says they are seeing more 14-year-olds exploited, where in the past the average age was 16.
As compared to 2020, where we recovered 26 children, minors. Just in the first half of this year, 22 minors were recovered. And unfortunately, their ages on average were younger than the minors recovered in 2020.
The group of leaders are encouraging parents to talk with their children about to ensure that they understand the risks of befriending individuals, especially adults. It is also a good idea to monitor what their child is doing online and who they are talking to on social media. And as always, if something seems suspicious, report it to the police. WNBA star Brittany Griner will spend 9 years in a Russian prison unless a possible prisoner swap can be worked out. Griner learned her fate today after pleading guilty to drug smuggling. More now from reporter Chris Nguyen.
In Russia, WNBA star Brittany Griner was found guilty of drug smuggling and sentenced by a Russian court to 9 years of jail time.
This is a miscarriage of justice.
On February 17th, Russian prosecutors say the two-time Olympic gold medalist was arrested with less than 1 gram of cannabis oil in her luggage at a Moscow International Airport. Griner claims it was an honest mistake due to packing in a hurry, saying she had no intent to break any Russian laws.
We have the big picture of, the relations between Russia and the United States, which right now are abysmal.
President Joe Biden released a statement saying in part, Russia is wrongfully detaining Brittany. It's unacceptable, and I call on Russia to release her immediately so she can be with her wife, loved ones, friends, and teammates. American officials on the ground also reacting to the verdict.
I will continue to do everything to care for the safety and well-being of Ms. Griner and of all U.S. citizens detained in the Russian Federation.
The Biden administration has proposed a prisoner swap for Griner and U.S. citizen Paul Whelan, who was convicted of espionage in 2020, which he denies, in exchange for convicted Russian arms trafficker Victor Bout.
One of our true sports heroes. And it's really hard to look at this and see that person in that cage.
Griner's legal team said they will appeal the verdict, but analysts have raised concerns that she is being used as a political pawn in Russia's war against Ukraine. In Washington, Chris Nguyen, KPBS News.
The U.S. Justice Department has charged 4 Louisville police officers with civil rights violations. All 4 were involved in the deadly Breonna Taylor raid. The 26-year-old black medical worker was shot to death by officers who had knocked down her door while executing the search warrant. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland says officers Joshua Janes, Brett Hankison, and Kelly Goodlett, along with Sergeant Kyle Meany, quote, share but cannot fully imagine the grief felt by Taylor's family, unquote. First, it was flooding, and now fires triggering evacuations in parts of the U.S. Reporter Mike Valeria with the challenges facing both residents and rescue workers.
In the middle of the night, sirens and spotlights cut through the darkness in the St. Louis area as rescue teams search for people trapped in flash floods unleashed by rainfall in line with a 50 to 100-year storm.
It was coming up and rising quick, so at that point, packed up some clothes, chucked it in a bag, and I got out, hopped in my vehicle, and just laid on the horn for all the neighbors to hear.
Like I woke up, the water was this high. I almost drowned. We had to get out in boats and everything.
The suffering still felt in Kentucky's flood zone, with the heightened rate of extreme weather top of mind for survivors.
And whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, I believe we're seeing the effects of climate change right here.
As Kentucky's recovery enters week 2, news stories of escape.
I reached and found my pistol in the back seat, and I shot the window out of my Chevy. The next day, getting to see my kids. that made it worth it.
In the West, Oregon's Miller Road fire exploding in size, forcing some people to fight the flames on their own.
The wind was blowing it to the south, but all of a sudden the wind changed and we had to abandon. I mean, it just instantly went from we got this to 20-foot flames rushing at us, and we had to drop our hoses and run.
Now, as millions face a record-breaking heat wave across the nation, extreme temperatures have claimed the lives of an elderly couple in Georgia, with temperatures in their home reaching a sweltering 115 degrees.
To hear their passing, it's nothing short of shocking.
Mike Valerio, KPBS News.
Firefighters are gaining ground on the McKinney fire, which is now California's deadliest and most destructive fire of the year. The wildfire near the Oregon border was 10% contained and more than 58,000 acres as of this morning. The flames didn't advance much yesterday following days of cloudy, rainy weather.
We've seen a surge of moisture in the area today. It's been very humid, and now we have some thundery downpours to be concerned about. That's in the mountain areas, and there's a flood watch that continues through the evening. Friday and Saturday, fewer storms as we tend to dry it out, but another moisture surge is coming Sunday, especially later Sunday into Monday, with some more showers and storms on the way. Here's a look at the flood watch. You can see it's in the mountain areas, and that continues through this evening. Here's a look at the water vapor. You can see the moisture surging in from Arizona into southeastern California. Well off to the west, this little swirl right here, that was once Hurricane Frank being drawn northward around an upper low. So the surf is starting to come down some right along the coast. Taking a look at temperatures tonight, we're right around 70 with some clouds in the area. Forecast temperatures overnight in the interior into the mid-60s and lower 70s, Ramon to El Cajon. There'll be a few storms around through the evening hours, Borrego Springs and Mount Laguna. We'll have to watch out for some localized flooding here. Temperatures tomorrow, still warm right near the coast, close to 80 degrees, close to 90, low 90s, Ramona, El Cajon. Not as active in the mountains, maybe a stray storm. And as we show you the future cast, you can see how the moisture is still going to be hanging around on Friday. And we do see a few thunderstorms trying to pop up in the mountains, so it's not totally dry. And as we head into Saturday, it's the same scenario, but Sunday, the moisture starts to surge back in. So as we take a look at our extended forecast for you, along the coast, it'll be warm and humid. Interior sections, upper 80s, and we will see a spotty storm here possible, especially by Sunday and Monday. As we take you into the mountains, some storms around Sunday into Monday and Tuesday, and in the desert, still a risk for some storms Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday with that next surge of moisture. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
The California Department of Education has launched an effort to attract 10,000 new mental health professionals to school campuses, and that includes offering $20,000 grants for students to complete advanced degrees and then work in K-12 schools. The COVID pandemic triggered a public mental health crisis in schools with shutdowns that forced virtual learning and delayed social and emotional growth in children. $184 million is included in the new state budget to cover the teaching grants and other efforts to recruit more counselors and clinicians.
Our students deserve and need to have more support, and we're grateful to have resources that we can use to help them. We recognize that it will take time to build out many of these resources. It's why we've embarked on such a big number.
Graduate students and mental health professionals can get more information on the $20,000 grants by emailing this address, mhcounselors@sde.ca.gov. Every child feels differently about going back to school. Some may be excited while others nervous. Anxiety in children may not look the same as it does in adults. Mandy Gaither has the signs to look out for and ways to help your child get ready to head back to school.
It's that time of year again. Heading back to the classroom may bring up a lot of different feelings.
Even if your kid is excited about going back to school, it's okay and completely normal if all of a sudden they start to feel anxiety.
Therapist Jody Baumstein says back-to-school anxiety can look different in every child, but some common signs to look out for are frequent worrying about school, trouble concentrating, frequent headaches or stomach aches with no known medical cause, changes in eating or sleeping habits, clinginess to caregivers, changes in mood, sweating, shaking, or fast breathing when thinking about school, and not taking part in activities they normally enjoy.
Anxiety can come from fear of the unknown. So for some kids, what's going to be most helpful is just really familiarizing them with certain things related to going to school.
Parents can help by going to the Meet the Teacher night or visiting the school before the first day. Drive the bus route or drop-off route with your child so they know what to expect. Encourage your child to practice with things they'll be using on their own, like lunch containers or backpacks. And meet up with other kids who go to the school so there are familiar faces.
Anything you can do to prepare ahead of time is going to put their mind at ease and make them a little more comfortable on day one.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, a Russian court sentences WNBA star Brittany Griner to 9 years in prison. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
A life-changing and life-saving day for many teens across San Diego.
1 minute and 30 seconds of CPR remains.
7, 8, 9, a little faster.
Today, they took part in a junior lifeguard training program on life-saving techniques, including CPR. The goal is to earn certification they'll need to become lifeguards.
People are pretty surprised because us being like 14, 15, 16 years old, it's pretty amazing to be able to have these skill sets.
More than 300 kids are participating in the 2-week junior lifeguard program. Roughly 400,000 cardiac deaths happen every year in the U.S. From North County to South County, you may have noticed herds of goats in open spaces. It's not a new petting zoo. As KPBS reporter Tanya Thorne shows us, these goats are actually working to help keep people safe from fires.
Johnny Gonzalez has been in the goat business for over 20 years. His business is called the Environmental Land Management Company. But
on the card, it says goats for hire because people didn't know what environmental land management did. So I had to get it out there that, yeah, we rent out, or you guys can utilize our goats for fire breaks.
Lately, his goats have been grazing near busy roads, businesses, and underneath power lines.
Yes, these goats are super cute to look at, but they're actually having a more important job here, preventing fires from starting from these power lines and getting to these nearby structures here and across the street and all around.
And it's all part of a new pilot program from SDG&E.
One of the cool things that I've heard people refer to them as is four-legged lawnmowers.
Denise Menard is with SDG&E.
As those four-legged lawnmowers can get up into areas that traditional lawnmowers just can't get into.
Last month, the energy company kicked off a goat grazing pilot program in Oceanside.
One of the last things that we want at SDG&E is for our infrastructure to ever cause a fire. So the cool thing is we're letting the goats kind of go out and do their thing and doing what comes natural to them, and that's to eat the weeds.
The rented goats are taken to high-risk fire areas to clear out dry brush and keep it from growing back for longer periods of time.
That not only do they eat the weeds, but they also eat the seeds. So that's one of the benefits that people don't think about. So a lot of times we have people kind of hanging out and watching the goats do their thing, and they're eating the weeds, but they don't realize that they're also eating the seeds. So by eating the seeds, the weeds just aren't popping back up as quickly as they would if the seeds hadn't gotten eaten by the goats.
Gonzalez says goat grazing for fire abatement isn't new and keeps him busy year-round.
The goat tool, if you will, is just a reintroduction to what abatement used to be like and reintroducing the goat to get that understory and flash fill treatment to that better degree.
But he explains that the work takes some time because weeds aren't the goat's favorite.
They start eating first the invasive plants that they're used to, the Mediterranean, Eurasian, African plants, and then after time, if we need an amount of native plant reduction, we hold them a period of time that they start to actually address it, because in our native plants, they eat last, believe it or not, and most of our fire problems are these weeds and grasses.
Although it takes a little more time, Gonzalez says goats are an organic alternative that aren't just reducing wildfire danger, but carbon emissions too.
It's a lot better than just cutting. You don't have the chaff and the duff laying around. They've literally converted it. You don't even notice it. And for the carbon aspect of it, it's all still on site. It hasn't been transported out. The nutrients are still in the soil, so the native plants, if they are to occur, have what they need. And there's no seeds. The goats remove like 99% of the seeds.
Gonzalez says once the goats are done, the land is in better shape to suppress a fire.
We want the trees and the landscape to be the fire break. This is allowing the land to be the suppression. And if it reaches this area, it'll be quenched out. If it falls into this area, it does not have a starting ignition point.
Safety concerns are sometimes raised by residents who spot them in suburban areas. But Gonzalez assures the goats don't mind this element.
These goats have been born and raised in this type of environment in these suburbs, so they're used to helicopters and sirens and police cars coming in, people screaming and other dogs barking. If we were to take the country goat here, they wouldn't be comfortable at all.
SDG&E has used Gonzalez's goats in Oceanside and Chula Vista to clear brush near power lines. The next site will be in Escondido. Upon completion, SDG&E will determine whether the pilot program is adopted and continues. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.